You know them, the ones who accuse, threaten, harass, pester, shame, raise their voices, wave their hands, and sometimes even get physically forceful in the office. They could be tantrum throwers, overbearing supervisors, micromanagers, passive-aggressive coworkers, or underminers. According to a study conducted by leadership development firm Fierce Incorporated, 4 out of every 5 employees work with or have worked with a colleague who could be considered toxic to the workplace. Unfortunately, this type of behavior is frequently tolerated. Only 40% of managers say they would fire a toxic employee, whereas 88% of employees say they would. They aren't necessarily bad at what they do just because they are toxic. These two are unrelated in any way. You might come upon a high-performing nasty coworker. They're even more dangerous because their skill and performance give them immunity. In her research, Siegel Barsade, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School and a notable researcher in emotional contagion, found that groups catch emotions and that one member's bad or good mood infects the rest of the group in significant ways. Even further, groups develop common emotions, called group effect. That means one toxic apple can spoil the whole barrel. According to a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, being in a relationship with a negative person raises your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and metabolic problems. Some people become toxic as a result of their own life experiences. For example, they may have been raised in a dysfunctional home where they were not taught how to manage their emotions in a healthy manner. However, regardless of the genesis of their bad behavior, the consequences are felt now, and you are most certainly a target. So, what are the signs of a toxic coworker? 1. You or others are held responsible for their unfavorable emotions and circumstances. Rather than taking responsibility for their feelings of inadequacy or insecurity, toxic people try to transfer them onto those closest to them. So, for example, someone in a terrible mood but refuses to own or accept responsibility for their sentiments can turn to you and say, "You're really in a bad mood today," leaving you perplexed. You'll frequently find yourself on the defensive without realizing why. Then, you'll be confronted with charges or accusations that don't make sense to you or appear out of nowhere. 2. You're always wrong, and they're always right. You're likely dealing with a toxic individual if someone refuses to admit mistakes and believes that you're always incorrect. To be correct, they will go to considerable lengths, including manipulating facts or doubting your memory. Toxic people are reluctant to admit when they've made a mistake, misread something, or said something wrong. 3. They are indifferent about your boundaries. It makes no difference if you've asked them to stop acting a specific way, a toxic person will continue to behave in ways that go against your preferences. Toxic people will also expect you to come through for them no matter what time of day or your situation. It's nearly impossible to form a great, supportive relationship with someone who doesn't respect your boundaries and doesn't even realize they're stepping on your toes. Your boundaries are the barriers you set to separate yourself from the world around you. Your boundaries help define you and protect you from hurtful, disrespectful, and invasive people. People with healthy boundaries know their limits and can express themselves. However, people with unhealthy boundaries pull on you aggressively and don't know when to stop. 4. Dishonesty is their MO. Toxic people are notorious for lying all the time, even about the tiniest details. This could be a case of embellishing the facts of a subject or outright fabricating something, which is a classic gaslighting method. They might do it because they have low self-esteem and are attempting to boost it, or it could be a technique of getting what they want. You can usually presume that it is only a half-truth if a toxic person tells you a long story. Five. They make no apologies. Toxic people rarely apologize, even when they are wrong. When toxic people apologize, it's almost always a deliberate ploy to get you to give them what they want. They always feel compelled to be correct, no matter what, and will alter information or blame others for doing so. 6. They delight in the role of the victim. It's a ruse to get sympathy and attention by portraying themselves as victims. Toxic people will always point the finger at someone else for their troubles. For example, they may have missed a deadline because no one reminded them, or they may be late for work because their spouse failed to set an alarm clock. At some point in their lives, everyone experiences bad luck. On the other hand, toxic people are glad to blame everyone else for their issues, especially the ones they should own. However, whatever happens to a toxic individual is almost always someone else's fault. 7. They are habitually sarcastic. A little sarcasm now and then can be amusing. Too much sarcasm, on the other hand, can damage people's feelings and make them feel small. As a result, toxic people use it as a weapon of choice. Sarcasm stems from feelings of rage, distrust, and vulnerability. Toxic people are so accustomed to speaking with sarcasm that they are oblivious to the extent of their harm. When confronted with the accusation of being hurtful, toxic people frequently reply with even more rage. Excessive sarcasm is never a good way to interact with others. 8. They never listen to coworkers. When talking to toxic people, they act bored or shift the subject. They do, however, want you to pay attention to them when they're speaking. But, unfortunately, your talking diverts any potential attention away from them and places it on you. A toxic person will only think about what they want to say next, rather than listening to what you have to say to understand you. As a result, they will appear uninterested in what you have to say and return the conversation to themselves rather than attempting to comprehend your point of view. 9. They act as if they care about your well-being. Pretending to be concerned about you is a ruse used by toxic people to make you believe they care about you, especially when you notice something's wrong. This phony concern can be misconstrued as genuine remorse, but it's a calculated attempt to catch you off guard or appeal to your emotions. When toxic people think you're going to wiggle your way out of their clutches, they'll display desirable behaviors to get you back into the relationship. They are tenacious in their criticism of others. You'll observe that toxic people frequently criticize others. So if you're with someone who often complains about other people while they're not present, they're doing the same to you. Toxic people enjoy focusing on other people's flaws to bolster their self-esteem. They will vocally critique individuals for superficial things or hammer on someone's honest mistake, but they will rarely point up their positive qualities. (11) They make you feel defensive about your decisions. You start to wonder if this individual is challenging your IQ because everything you say or do is met with debate. The sarcasm and criticism hurled at you can weigh you down and keep you on your toes. You stop feeling like you can be yourself around this person because you're afraid they'll criticize you, and you start screening what you say while you're talking to them. 12. They exhibit inconsistency in their behavior. When you're with a toxic individual, nothing stays the same. Opinions, preferences, and plans may change from one day to another. There's usually no evident reason for the shift in attitude. You know something isn't right. They may be cold or irritable, and when questioned if something is wrong, they may answer nothing, but a sigh or a facial expression will indicate that something is amiss. You would almost likely seek ways to make them happy, which is why toxic people behave in this manner. (13) They are uninterested in what matters to you. Instead, they'll come up with an excuse for why your fantastic news isn't that terrific. For example, if you're preparing to go on a beach vacation, they might say, "The heat will be unpleasant. That's a massive lot of labor for such little pay." They could comment if you just obtained a promotion at work. Because discussing the positive aspects of your life takes the focus away from them, toxic people frequently employ fault-finding to make you feel inadequate. When you are around toxic people, it is often preferable to keep your excitement to yourself if something fantastic has happened. 14. They brag about their accomplishments. The need to brag stems from a deep sense of insecurity. People who feel inferior spend their time making themselves appear superior to others by overcompensating. Only by making other people miserable can these insecure people be happy. As a result, toxic people frequently boast of covering up their flaws, which they desperately hope you will never notice. They will even take credit for someone else's accomplishments because they require validation to feel superior to others. However, these people with no sense of self-worth still have an innate desire to feel important in society, and this desire can only be satisfied if they project their perceived greatness. 15. They take, and take some more. Toxic people will steal your time, assets, and attention from you for as long as you're able or willing, with no intention of repaying or giving back what they've stolen. This is a type of deception. When you're with this person, you're probably under the impression that you're the only one who contributes to the relationship. Toxic people convey the message that you owe them something, and you're likely to believe it. How to manage toxic people at work. 1. Don't get caught up in the drama. It's not about you when another person is toxic, it's about them. It's not worth your time or energy to be concerned about what you did or why you're being singled out. That only strengthens their grip on you. You need to get emotional distance from toxic people, writes Larry Kim in Incorporated. Stop giving poisonous people space in your mind. This is difficult, but stressing over what someone else is doing or what they might do next will sabotage your efforts. Instead, you second-guess your actions and weigh their feedback before it's even given, or forced upon you. 2. Lean in to figure out. Whether they are your boss, employee, or co-worker, toxic people act unreasonably, believing that it would help them achieve a goal. Unreasonable people, according to Goulston, frequently approach situations this way because they believe this is the best way for them to get their point across or to avoid being blamed for something. To them, it's not irrational. They feel that if they can persuade or overwhelm someone, the other person will not ask them to do something they don't want to do, or will not hold them accountable. Engaging in a conversation with the person and listening to what is upsetting them is a fantastic method to go to the source of their toxicity and face it. Inside most people who aren't dyed-in-the-wool dysfunctional, Goulston says, there is a desire to get better results. So you have a chance of avoiding much of the toxicity if you can tap into that desire. Three. Establish clear boundaries for yourself. You must decide what you will and will not tolerate at some point. Do this when you're at your most rational. It's better to do this with a clear head. Push back if your coworker points fingers every time there's a problem. If a coworker is always whining, focus their attention on finding solutions. Asking complainers how they plan to solve the problem is a fantastic method to set boundaries. Then, they'll either quiet down or steer the conversation in a productive direction. 4. Escalate the issue, but go in with a case. It's generally preferable to deal with a toxic colleague on your own before going above their head, but sometimes you don't have a choice. If your feedback hasn't helped or the person is causing significant damage, escalate the issue. If you're the boss, then bring in HR. Focus on how the company is negatively affected by this person's behavior. Don't simply express that they are challenging, as that is unlikely to invoke change. Instead, prepare yourself with talking points about how this person is hurting productivity and bring in specific examples with as much corroborating evidence as possible. Make a clear case for the harmful effect sustained toxic behavior can have in the workplace. If left unchecked, the morale of an entire team can be damaged, or even irrevocably changed.